Hello everyone, I'm the okayest bassist, and this is not a bass video. It's about general equipment that I have. I had a couple people who asked me, not tens of people, just ones of people, who have asked me if I recommend one thing of a certain kind over another. I do have different pieces of gear that I do use continually, some that I've used for years, some that I've found more recently that have replaced stuff I've used for years. So I figured for fun I'd do a quick little small set accessories gear video. So the first thing I can say is this. I have many basses. I used to have over 30 of them at one point. I used to buy a different strap that would match every bass, so each bass could just be taken off and put on. The cost of the straps every time you buy a new one and then you don't have one that matches anymore can add up. So what I did was I switched to this. This is a D'Addario auto locking strap. If I can get close enough, you might be able to see it. The strap itself has a locking mechanism. It's simply a lift of a hinge, snaps back down, and that locks over top of the strap button, making a circle from which the strap button does not escape. Super nice, super handy, because all you have to do is grab your bass, put your strap, lock it on the bottom, lock it on the top, throw it on your shoulder, you're done. This saves a lot of time, especially if you're changing instruments, because you don't necessarily have to worry about the strap itself. You can simply unhook it at the top, unhook it at the bottom, hang it up, pull your new one, and lock it in place. Next piece that we're going to talk about is this. This is a rechargeable Super Snark. It's your standard clip-on style tuner from Snark, Super Snark being their series. But this one, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but this one is rechargeable. It uses a micro USB charger, so instead of having to carry around, I think typically it's CR2032s, those little watch batteries, you don't have to do that. It does have multiple settings on the back where you can do the pitch setup. I believe it's so you can switch between bass, guitar, ukulele, violin, and mandolin, if I'm right. If not, just look up Super Snark rechargeable and you can find the real information. I'm an idiot, I don't know. But these are two things. I used to always just use a regular Snark, a Fishman, whatever tuner I had around. But since I found the rechargeable, it's been so nice, because I take my tuner and then I have one here, I have one at church, and it sucks when you're trying to tune something, all of a sudden the battery dies and you don't have a backup battery. In this case, it's plug it in for like 1 or 2 minutes, you're good enough to tune an instrument, then you can plug it in and let it charge the rest of the way. The next thing I'll talk about is my wireless system. I do prefer to play wirelessly. It started because my boy was, 2 or 1, and he liked to grab things like cables while I was playing and try to break stuff, unintentionally for him, but it was what was going to happen, so I started doing wireless. I started out with just a cheapie, found the cheapest one I could find on Amazon that had decent ratings. I think it was like $30 for the set. I now currently use Positive Grid's Spark Link system. You'll notice this one has an added accessory of one of my wife's hair ties. That is because this particular one, I don't think this is typical of Positive Grid quality control, but I plugged it in, and this one only has just over 90 degrees worth of movement. Actually, that's too far. That kind of bent the body out again. So it has just over 90 degrees worth of movement. What happened was I had it plugged in. I went to bend it, and when I went to bend it, I don't know what happened inside, but there was a distinct crunching sound, and the top of the body lifted off. I ended up having to take a couple of broken little plastic pieces out for it to shut, and then I hair tied it together. I don't know, I may super glue it. I have messaged Positive Grid, told them about it. They said, I showed them it was working. I asked, did I need a replacement? I told them honestly I wasn't happy with the durability on it. I was worried it was going to break again, especially with my young one, and a lot of the instruments I have, like the Ibanez's, have the locking jack. So I was worried that if I'm playing and if it's bent up to be compact and he bends it down, I was worried it was going to break again. They said no problem, we understand, and are sending me a refund. So I have this, it's broken, don't know how long it's going to last, might last forever, might not last another week. I also have used the ones by Lakato, I believe that's how you would pronounce it. I have one by Swift, or S Swift. It's a UHM, UHF, however letters go. The ones I've used from Lakato, the original one I think was a Lakato. It was a 2.4 gigahertz. I have their WS70 on order because I saw it through Temu and it was free as long as I bought 5 other things for 75% off, or however that worked. I think I spent $30 to get it, but to buy it from Amazon was going to be $33. So I get a bunch of like post-it notes and other stuff for free from buying it that way. I haven't noticed any major difference. The first 2.4 gigahertz one that I had, I did notice it had a bit of buzz or background noise in it. The Spark Link has never had that problem. Even the only thing I've noticed with it is if they're not connected, there have been times that I've grounded myself by touching the receiver when the transmitter's not on, and it'll pick up, I guess, like a static hum from that, but it's never been a problem whilst playing. The S Swift one, it was fine too. I think they're like $56, something like that on Amazon. Had no problems with it. I have those 2 lesser expensive systems at church, and that's what we use whenever we're playing, or at least I use them. But I can't recommend any of them majorly over the others. The others all do have more than just the like 95 degrees worth of motion. Theirs is at least 120. I think most of them are like in the 220 range of motion, so I do recommend that over the Spark Link. But the Spark Link is by far the easiest to use. You literally turn it on, hit the buttons. The 2.4 and 5.6 gigahertz frequencies one, I have noticed problems where sometimes you'll turn them on and they won't pair up perfectly, and you'll have like a thumping static noise that you have to turn them off, turn them back on, or resync them. Never have I had that with the Spark Link. So higher quality, easy to use. Durability, slightly a concern, but again, I'm not going to complain about it, especially now that I got a broken set with no cost. But your results may vary. Next thing I will talk about is my ultimate support. This is not for a push-up bra. This is for holding an instrument. I hang all of my instruments, as can be seen on the wall. This is a hanging stand. Simply uses just a narrowing V fork, and then it does have a little rubber strap you can use to go across the front so stuff doesn't pull forward. I've had these quite a lot over the years. They changed the design, and I'm not best pleased with that, but I like these because they can collapse easily and fold down. You just pull that, it'll slide in. Of course, you're supposed to do that top part last, and I'm just dumb. But that'll fold down. The way the old ones worked, there was a locking knob. You turned it, it unlocked, and then you could fold or unfold the legs. Now it has this button, this little blue button. You push that, and then it's supposed to lock or unlock. Apparently you have to like hold it, and then it's supposed to let you. But I have yet to figure this thing out. Like, it opened, and then I can't figure out for the life of me how I am supposed to close it. It has this little indicator on the side that you're on the sides that I guess it's supposed to be like red is locked, black is unlocked. Hey, there we go. Well, you know, we figured it out together. So it all folds up. You can then lock it so it stays mostly folded. The ones I had from before, like the ones that I use at church, are the old ones, and it was a lot more sturdy. Like, I don't know, it might just be this one, but like the legs are super smooth. On the other one, you could, I guess, slightly tighten them because these things glide super nice. but when locked, they still have, I don't know, 5-10 degrees worth of play in them. And that means that if you have the legs pushed down all the way, if this flipped up, if that up, let's not even talk about the top being wiggly, but you can have everything set up, you set it down, it's barely set down, and it's already sliding. Like, it's not a problem, it's still super stable. I mean, I can grab the bully base, take it down, throw it on there. It's not going anywhere. But it's just a little disappointing when you have something that you've used. I have used these literally since the first time I went to a Guitar Center when I was first playing years ago. And I noticed one that had it hanging, and all I could think is, if I've seen a bunch of stuff where if you have an instrument sitting down and it's leaning against something, that's going to eventually be pressure on the neck. It's obviously not going to be a huge amount of problem, but I thought if it's hanging from the neck, that's going to be less force against it long term. So I like these. They also have this thicker part on the bottom that is lined with like a velvet, so that it's super soft, so you're not going to scratch up or do any kind of finish damage. Again, I've used these for years. It's just the other ones, the legs were a lot more sturdy on the bottom side. They didn't wiggle as much. They didn't have as much give once they were locked in. But I like having them because they're easy to pack. I mean, you can fold that thing up, make it small, and put it inside the pouch of a gig bag, and a lot of gig bags that I've had, or simply wrap something around it, hang it alongside the neck, whatever. Then you have a stand that you can use. It's easy to use, easy to unfit, as long as you understand pushing buttons, apparently, which I didn't until now. But I like using them. They're not that expensive. I got this one for free because I put in an order on Musician's Friend, and I didn't need a set of strings. And Carol, shout out to Carol, extension 2450 at Musician's Friend, hooked me up when I ordered, I think it was a $1,500 or $1,100 bass, something like that, and she was able to throw in an accessory. The chargeable tuner was a freebie I'd gotten at one point. This was one I'd gotten at one point. I think these run in the $30 to $50 range depending on brand. Ultimate's the one I've normally used. I think Hercules has some too, so like I'm no brand loyalist. I don't care what brand it is. I just like the hanging stands, and I like them when they're collapsible so that it's easy for transport. I mention them on the show all the time. These, in case you've just not remembered the letters to search and you are a visual person who wants a picture, these are the D'Addario ETB 92, in this case the -5 for 5 string that I typically use. I love these things. Every now and then you can find them on sale. Musician's Friend, half of their sales usually have like a 15% off if you spend $100. Since the strings are like $60-65, it's usually not too hard to find an extra $35 to throw on top of it to save $15, which means you buy a set of these, put your 15% off code, spend $35, it only costs you $20. That's how corporations get all of our money. That and pay $5 more to get free shipping instead of paying $4 for shipping. But these are the strings I'm usually talking about, so if you wanted a picture, there you go. Since the video's kind of going all over everywhere, you don't need this particular like model. This is just a Hyper Tough from Walmart that I got. It's a little screw gun that you can use to have shaped like a drill, or I typically use it where it's folded out like a screwdriver. But if you change strings a lot, and if you have a lot of basses that have headstocks, one of these is amazing. I don't know how well the camera is picking that up, but this is an attachment you can put on a screw gun, a drill. You can put it on an impact wrench if you want to break things. Just simply magnetizes into this one. I use this because the drills and stuff I have, I'm worried are a bit too strong. This you just put right on the end of a tuner and pull your trigger, and it will tighten or loosen as needed. This one has, as you saw, the little light on it, so that makes it nice so you can actually see stuff, especially if you're trying to use it for screws. I also have a couple of other bits for it. For example, if I'm changing out bridge pieces or whatever, because I don't want to risk using something that has a lot of high torque and either sending a screw through a body or it slips and you got a whole bunch of weight pushing down because of the motor, the battery, and all that on like a piece of regular home improvement equipment as opposed to just this little screw gun. But you could use this with a nut driver if you wanted. Anything that will receive a standard, I think this is a 1/4 inch size hex bit. But I do heavily recommend these. My wife got me this and this for Christmas, and even though half or more than half probably of what I have is headless, this thing has saved so much time on string changes. Anytime I buy a bass, I put on a set of either tape wounds, flat wounds, or what have you. Typically the D'Addarios, but it's so nice just to be able to pop this onto a string and buzz it for a few seconds. Now it's already loosened. You get your new string, you cut it to length, slap it inside, bend it over, pop this on the end, switch the setting, and boom, about 5 seconds later again, it's already tightened up, and then you can just tune to pitch as opposed to having to crank, especially, you know, if you're doing that on a few instruments at a time. Like, I change out my strings regularly. I get given a bunch of crap for always buying new strings, but when you change out strings as much and as often as I do, might sound like a baby, but I don't care. I don't want to sit there by hand changing out strings on 5 or 6 instruments, 5 strings at a time, when I can use this and get it done 3 times faster and with 1/4 the hand fatigue. So I do think these are neat. I recommend these to folks all the time. This little thing, I think this one's a D'Addario brand. It costs like $10, $12. You don't need to do that. You can get a cheap one through Amazon, eBay for a few bucks. If you use Temu, AliExpress, whatever, you can probably get it for like $1. But I do recommend this little setup. It is super handy. Again, saves time, saves energy, works smarter, not harder. Along the lines of tools, this is a lot of piece set of screwdriver. This is actually like a tech or phone repair screwdriver, mini screwdriver set. I got this through either AliExpress or Temu because it was like a couple dollars. I'd already had one that had been a Christmas gift. Again, this is made for like phone repairs, hence why it has like a SIM card popping tool with a suction cup to hold onto a screen. But what I can say is this little screwdriver thing in here, it has like where the back can rotate so you can keep pressure while also doing the screw. But it has where you can pull this back, and has a multi-step extension so you can make it a bit longer. If you need to reach something, you can lock it into place. The end of it is magnetic, and I cannot stress how valuable this thing has been. Like, I think it cost less than $10 to get this kit. It has been more worth it than probably half the tools that I own, because you can just pop a little number 2 Phillips into there, and you can adjust a screw with that. If you're doing a bridge piece and it has a more narrow screw set, you have a number 1 Phillips you can just magnetize right in there. But most of the stuff in instruments, like on bridge pieces or on tuning stability stuff, like if you're trying to adjust the width of a screw or if you're trying to adjust the height, most of them are a hex head, and this has like all of the hex heads that you would have in your standard and metric Allen wrench set right here. So instead of having either the longer side with the little nub swinging around the top like a tiny little helicopter, or vice versa where you get more leverage, you can do it all with this. Also, it's funny because it comes with these little pieces to like separate mechanical bits or plastic from glass or whatever, but they work as guitar picks too. So there is that. But it's a phone repair kit. You can get them all the places. I've had instruments that have had the weird, like to adjust intonation string length, where the screw is on the string side of the bridge, not the bottom side of the bridge. This one particularly comes with a little attachment that actually gives you a flexible piece, but it will still rotate because it has this housing that oversits a flexible rod. So you hold the end and it will turn the entire thing, but if you hold this housing you can still turn it, and I don't think you can see it, but the inside of it is still rotating. So this has been super handy to not have to take strings and stuff off, that you can put your bit in this end, snake it into where you want, attach this, and then you can still do the adjustment. I mean, you have to be careful because of course you're on an angle, and if you slip it's going to slide somewhere, but that has been super handy for being able to adjust some of the more tricky to reach places. So again, it doesn't have a name brand, but one of these simple little multi-piece, I think this is supposed to be like a 105 piece or 205, I don't know. But one of these little things is amazing for being able to work on stuff, have it all in one little compact package. I just have it sitting in my drawer on my little work table. So anytime I need it, I know where it is, and I have had very few problems that this thing hasn't been able to solve that doesn't require the use of like a power tool. If it needs a mechanical screwdriver, this thing, though being small, has plenty of durability that I've never had a problem where I've been turning it and something inside started stripping out. It's just a whole bunch of hex pieces that go together so that you have all the modularization that you need. But heavily recommend one of these. Again, it's made for repairing phones, but half the bits you'll probably never use, or more than half of them. But for the ones that you will use, this thing has been super valuable. And that's about it. I don't have anything else that I have music-wise that I like super recommend over anything else, or that I would have as like a recommendation of a product to try. As far as my amp, I used a Positive Grid Spark 40 originally with bass when I started getting going with it. Had no problems with it until the firmware update ended up making it where it had no output. The replacement I had some sort of speaker problem to it where on any bass load it would start farting out. So I ended up just getting rid of that. I went to the Boss Dual Q LX for bass. That thing was great. It was fun. I now use the Positive Grid Spark 2 because it has the removable rechargeable battery, which was a big thing I wish that could have been an option on the Boss. If the Boss could have had a rechargeable battery, I probably wouldn't have gone to the Positive Grid. I just don't like the idea of a bunch of disposable 2A batteries, nor do I like the idea of having to get a set of wall chargers to charge those, because by the time they die I'm going to have to take them all out and charge them. If they die, it's probably because I'm going somewhere and taking my amp with me. All of that's in the Boss video, but I do use the Spark 2 amp now. I've also used and still have a Trace Elliot 1x8, I think it's a 200 watt amp. It's more power than I need. It also doesn't have the, I guess, versatility. I can't go in and put in effects. Sometime today I am supposed to have the Microcosm pedal coming in. There are videos out about that. Low End Lobster has a really good one that kind of shows about it, and a couple of different videos. I'm interested in getting that and playing around with it, but it's supposed to come today, so you guys won't see that video maybe next week. That might be the video I put out next week, who knows. But as of now, there's no other major gear. The only other thing I do personally is I do all of my stuff through my iPad. I don't use a computer. This is being recorded on my iPhone with a Movo microphone that I think the whole vlogger kit on Amazon's $80, but somehow I got mine super lucky where I got all of it for like $13 because it was an open box. But it's the Movo microphone above the phone, That uses its own cable to come out, but it uses a headphone jack, the 8mm audio, but it's one that I guess provides power because there's one specifically for use with a phone. That goes into a Walmart on-brand headphone to USB-C adapter because the iPhone I have is an iPhone 15. I do all the recording and video stuff on that with just a Walmart on-brand tripod. I used to use a ring light. I haven't used a ring light for the last couple videos. Hopefully the lighting seems okay. I've got my overhead light. I have a window with a curtain, a couple curtains open, so it seems fine. The rest of my stuff, like if I need to do major editing, I do on my iPad Pro, but there are plenty of way better videos about stuff like that on computers or iPads and how to, I just do everything in iMovie, and all I do is cut out the crap parts of me getting up and walking or saying something really stupid in the wrong way, and then I cut that out. That's it. So, as always, I thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have yourselves a wonderful day.